Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pretty glad to be here. I'm a historian, and I tell meaningful stories using archival sources. I want to ask a question, what you have heard about the country Nigeria. Is it food, culture, religion, or politics? Whatever you have heard about the country Nigeria might possibly be true about the country. I grew up in a city, Onitsha, a British settlement area in Nigeria. At the age of 4, I started attending All Saints Cathedral Church, a Gothic architecture filled with only English services. There is no other form of native language. I was not exposed to the intricacies of what Africans did to the church. The Igbo language for that church simply dialects Oka in the Ocha white man's church, because it's strictly for those who can understand English. There was a little narrative or nothing about what the Africans did in that church. So I was constrained with what Chimamanda called the danger of a single story, because I only heard about what the white man did. It's on this premise that I want to talk about what is a church built for. Gothic architecture and British imperialism in eastern Nigeria, 1857 to 1960. The word Gothic came from the German word Gothus during the German defeat of Roman 300 to 400 AD. That by 12th century, they began to erect all these Gothic churches in Europe. 1857 is significant to Nigeria because it's the Niger expedition. And by 1960, Nigeria had their independence. So as we think through the contents of the talk, is to display the interplay between Gothic architecture, the role of British, the Church of England, and African role in the church, which have been silent in historical scholarship. Just a little bit clarification on where Eastern Nigeria is. Africa is a continent with 54 countries, and Nigeria is in western part of Africa. Also, the eastern part of Nigeria during this sort of period is called Eastern Nigeria at the east coast of Nigeria. So, but one interesting thing about this African continent is that they are conscious about polytheism. They are conscious about their belief system, culture, and religious belief. Just a little big step back forward, that by 1804, with the end of transatlantic slave trade, Church of England began to champion what the historians call the 3 C's of commercialization, civilization, and Christianization of Africa. But in 1857, a group of religious groups, CMS, began to navigate through the interior parts of eastern Nigeria and settled through Onitsha City, where I grew up. They led by Bishop Samuel Ajayi Crowther, and stopped at Onitsha because of River Niger. It was strategic in that place, so they were conscious about setting up their own religion. But one interesting thing that happened in that city was that this particular group of people had their belief system. They also practiced their religious belief, and they have a place of worship. But interestingly, the CMS also needed a place of worship. Assisted by the communities, they constructed their own church. The same, similar, like that of the African religious setting. As you can see, the Ajayi Crowther standing without no masses. People paid no attention on the church because the church was similar to that of the eastern Nigeria religious places. So that by the end of 1860, only 24 converts was recorded in the whole of eastern Nigeria. These 24 converts were not indigenous eastern Nigeria. They were what we call the outcast system, slaves, because people paid less attention on their practices because of their structure. So people were also adamant to receive that Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus, Son of God, when he has no mother. So people were adamant to receive that type of gospel, because for someone to be Son of God, there should be a mother for him. So there was lackadaisical attitude about the word Jesus, Son of God. But interestingly, with the influence of Roman Catholic churches springing up in Europe, the Church of England thought it wise enough to also incorporate their own representation, not only in eastern Nigeria, but cut across all British territories. that by 1870, the Church of England Ecclesiastical Society advocated for early English and Gothic decorates to represent English identity in all the British colonies as a structure that should talk about who we are in that particular society. And it's significant that this Gothic architecture must have a bell tower with a wall clock and two lighted things, showcasing the Church of England representative. A Gothic church is an aspect of bringing holistically the English identity in all British West Africa. But one interesting thing is that as they were building these churches, Africans were recruited. Africans were recruited as laborers and as people who laid the foundation and erected this church. And as you can see in the picture, many people, this is the same church I was going strictly only for English services. Up to today, the church have not held any service in our native language. And people are marching to see the white angel we are seeing there to pray for Thanksgiving. And everything about that church is all about white. And people are all marching, including Mathias, all marching also to speak English in the church. But interestingly, these Africans that were laborers in these churches became the pioneers of the turning point of Nigerian churches, erecting not Gothic per se, but also instituting those tower structure, representing same Church of England identity in the church, that these people began to reorient the mindset of the structure of the Church of England. What is a church built for? That not only in Eastern Nigeria, but also in colonial Lagos and all parts of Africa, that what they represent is a holistic meaning of English identity, that beyond evangelism, beyond humanitarian purposes, that Gothic architecture was a syndicate bringing people to church, because this is a sign. This particular design aesthetics we are not really seen within this particular period. People saw it as an attraction and moved into the church. That by 1960, there became lots of populace anglicizing the church. And as Brian 20 says, Gothic architecture played a significant role in forging the image of Anglican Church during the late 19th century. Church buildings were considered central in representing the distant and uncompromising intentions of Anglican missionary projects in the process of Anglicizing the African landscape and its people. That beyond religion, beyond evangelism, beyond humanitarian purposes, Gothic architecture was a syndicate attracting African people into the church. And as I started my discussion, and I summarized by Chimamanda's also the danger of a single story, that when we realize the danger of a single story, when we reject that there is no place without the atom of a holistic story, we will build a kind of paradise. Thank you.